At 29, Ethan was an asset for a clandestine organization. The director was fond of saying that 25 was an operative's peak. By 30, their careers were effectively over. Ethan, a late bloomer, had 2 months left before mandatory retirement. The director wanted to close Ethan's career with a final, monumental contract. He jabbed a finger at the cover of Forbes magazine. The man on the cover was Julian Thorne, Chicago's wealthiest magnate. An anonymous client had placed a $100 million bounty on his life. The director clapped Ethan on the shoulder, telling him that this job, if done right, would make him a legend. Ethan took the magazine, his professional eye appraising the subject. The face was arresting. He traced the sharp brow line and the straight bridge of the nose on the glossy paper. His finger lingered over the thin, determined line of the man's mouth, a faint smile playing on his own lips. It would be a handsome corpse. The thought sent a cold thrill through him. He asked if the groundwork had been laid. The director, his glasses glinting, assured him everything was arranged. When Ethan inquired about the plan, lighting a cigarette and taking a deep drag, the director responded with a single, unexpected word: honey trap. The smoke caught in Ethan's throat. He found himself bound, thrown onto a king-sized bed scattered with red rose petals. The restraints were professional, the knots secure enough to hold a bull. He questioned the necessity of the vibrant pink silk boxers they had forced him into. It wasn't as if the act was meant to be consummated. The organization's proficiency in these matters was unsettling. It made him suspect that the 30-and-out rule was less about physical decline and more about marketability. His target, Julian Thorne, entered the hotel suite smelling of expensive whiskey. A feverish, unnatural flush colored his cheeks. His eyes, when they landed on Ethan, went blank for a moment. He tore at his tie with an impatient gesture and strode to the bed, his large frame casting a shadow over Ethan. Julian demanded to know who had sent him. The man's face was inches away, a far more powerful and visceral sight than any magazine photo. But Ethan was a consummate professional. Beauty was irrelevant. He told the man it didn't matter, that he was about to die. With practiced ease, Ethan slipped his bonds and raised the gun he'd been provided. Something was wrong. He knew the precise weight and balance of his tools. This pistol was hollow, empty. At the same moment, a leaden fatigue began to seep into his limbs. He realized he'd been drugged. Julian moved with startling speed, snatching the useless weapon away and shoving him back onto the mattress. As he ripped open his collar, a button popped off, striking Ethan's cheek. The skin of his exposed neck was flushed a deep, angry red. Summoning the last of his strength, Ethan grabbed the heavy bedside lamp and swung it at Julian's head. Blood streamed from a gash on Julian's forehead, but he wiped it away with a dismissive smear of his hand. His fingers closed around Ethan's throat. The world began to blur at the edges, his brain starved of oxygen. Like a drowning fish, he clawed desperately at Julian's shirt. Julian's face drew closer until, just before darkness claimed him, their lips met in a brutal, painful kiss that tasted of iron. The drug fully took hold, leaving him powerless. He could only watch as Julian's blood-streaked fingers traced a line from his cheek down his neck, leaving a crimson trail. Julian leaned in close, his eyes dark and intense like a midnight hawk's, churning with a nearly overwhelming desire. Their breaths mingled in the charged space between them. He murmured for Ethan to be good, to stop fighting, that everything would be okay. His voice was a low growl, barely concealing a volatile energy, like a caged lion. The drug's final wave pulled him under. He awoke to find his limbs secured to the 4 posts of the bed. Nothing had happened during the night, but he was a prisoner. Julian Thorne stood beside the bed, dressed in a bespoke suit that highlighted his narrow waist. His expression was once again cool and distant. He placed a tray on the nightstand with a gesture of effortless grace, a complete departure from the previous night's violence. He offered a terse apology for the events of the night before. Ethan demanded to be released. Julian regretted that, given the attempted assassination, it wasn't possible. Ethan's laugh was cold. He asked what Julian planned to do, suggesting he call the police. A sudden smile transformed Julian's face, like a glacier cracking in the spring sun. He replied that he could never bring himself to do that. The smile was disarming, and for a second, Ethan was stunned before his anger returned. He snarled that if Julian didn't kill him, he would certainly kill Julian. Julian's response was a casual shrug, telling him to do as he pleased. He then offered breakfast, holding a sandwich to Ethan's lips. Ethan turned his head away. He announced that he needed to use the restroom, bluntly asking if Julian preferred he use the bed. Julian's brow furrowed in mild annoyance at the crudeness. After a tense 10-second standoff, he sighed and began to undo the restraints. As he unlocked them, his cool, calloused fingers gently brushed the red marks left by the cuffs on Ethan's skin. The moment the last handcuff clicked open, Ethan pivoted, aiming a punch directly at Julian's temple. This was his craft. A blow like that should have incapacitated the man. Didn't. In a dizzying blur of motion, his arm was twisted behind his back. Julian had caught the punch as easily as a child catching a ball. A searing pain shot through his right shoulder. It was likely dislocated. Sweat beaded on his forehead, but he bit his lip and made no sound. Julian threw him back onto the bed, pinning him down effortlessly. In that moment of complete subjugation, Ethan understood why Julian was so unconcerned by his threats. As much as he hated to admit it, he probably couldn't kill this man. It explained the director's bizarre choice of a honey trap. Julian's strength was unnatural. Julian looked down at him, a hint of weariness in his eyes. He asked if all the struggling was truly necessary. Pain lanced through Ethan's shoulder. He changed tactics, his face crumbling into a mask of tearful vulnerability. For a brief moment, Julian's expression softened, his grip loosening almost imperceptibly. It was the only opening Ethan needed. He exploded out from under him, scrambled to the window, and leaped. As the wind rushed past his ears, he heard Julian cry out a name, Lee. He ran all the way back to the organization's headquarters and kicked open the director's door. He explained how the organization had betrayed him. The director calmly informed him that a rival operative, jealous of the high-profile assignment, had drugged him and had already been disciplined. He told Ethan not to worry about the failed mission, but about himself. He advised him to check the dark web. Ethan logged on and saw a new $100 million bounty. The featured image was a photo of him, bound in pink silk boxers on the rose-petal-strewn bed. The bounty description was a sensationalized tale of a heartbroken young man, abandoned and pregnant by a callous playboy, now desperately seeking his return. The post requested any good-hearted people to deliver the subject, alive, to Julian Thorne's address. The comments section was a mix of confusion and mockery. He reread the text until he could recite it. Heartbroken young man. Pregnant. The words felt alien, nonsensical. He seized the director's shoulders, demanding to know how he could be described in such a way. He shouted that it was a character assassination. The director calmly explained that what mattered was not the story, but the fact that every killer on the web was now hunting him. Ethan sank into a sofa and asked what he should do. He seriously suggested that killing Julian would nullify the bounty. The director shook his head. He informed Ethan that the hit had been officially canceled. The organization had received $200 million. When Ethan sputtered in disbelief about their professional ethics, the director reminded him that they were all just trying to make a living. For $200 million, a client became more than a client. They became a patron. As for Ethan's predicament, the director said the organization had already arranged a solution. Mr. Thorne was now their top-tier VIP client, and the organization was contractually obligated to protect him. His new assignment was to be Julian's personal bodyguard. Ethan was speechless. He suspected they were just after the bounty on his head. He argued the absurdity of it, protecting the man he'd just tried to kill. The director looked at him with a pitying expression, suggesting he might not understand who was the predator and who was the prey in this situation. His rage was impotent. He had signed a binding contract. The director, with the enthusiasm of a theatrical agent, even asked Julian if Ethan should be packaged for the role, perhaps with a ribbon. Julian gave Ethan a non-committal glance, but the director was already trying to produce a pink bow. Ethan's death glare was enough to make him desist. He was led into the penthouse. Julian was at his desk, a pair of gold-rimmed glasses perched on his nose. His assistant, a man named Wei, quietly announced Ethan's arrival. Without looking up, Julian gestured to the left. Wei escorted Ethan to a suite next to the master bedroom. Ethan stared in silence at the frosted glass door that connected the two rooms. He felt a rising panic. A man with Julian's skills didn't need a bodyguard. He recalled the kiss, and a shiver ran down his spine. Wei explained, with an air of complete professionalism, that Ethan's duty was to monitor Mr. Thorne's every move and be ready to intervene at the first sign of danger. His initial fears proved to be well-founded. Julian's gaze was a constant, unnerving weight. Whenever Ethan was idle, he would turn to find Julian's deep, impassive eyes on him. Julian also began providing him with a series of uniforms. One day a baker's apron, the next a collegiate prep school uniform. He suspected Julian had some peculiar fetish. The job was becoming unbearable. He was being paid as a bodyguard but treated like a concubine. He decided he had to get himself fired. While Julian was away on a business trip, Ethan let himself go completely. He didn't shower, shave, or change his clothes. When he went to meet Julian at the airport, he saw a flicker of light in Julian's eyes as he approached. Ethan closed the distance and enveloped him in a ripe, malodorous embrace. Julian's eyes widened. Ethan held on tighter, confident that the stench would repel the notoriously fastidious man. When he finally let go, he watched Julian's face expectantly. Julian gripped his shoulders, his usual cool demeanor gone. His pupils were dilated with a strange excitement. He asked urgently if Ethan remembered anything. Ethan was baffled by the question and remained silent. The warmth in Julian's eyes faded, inch by inch, until it was gone. He turned and walked away, his back looking strangely desolate amidst the airport crowd. Ethan felt an unexpected pang of regret. For the next few days, Julian avoided him. The penthouse felt empty and strangely quiet. Ethan felt a hollow ache he couldn't name. One night, a loud crash from the master bedroom jolted him awake. He burst through the connecting door to see Julian grappling with an intruder. Julian landed a heavy punch to the man's temple, but the attacker's hand was already reaching for a knife on the floor. Instinct took over. Ethan lunged forward, grabbing the blade with his bare hand. The tip stopped an inch from Julian's chest. Blood dripped from his fingers. Julian, his eyes red with fury, snatched the knife and began pummeling the man with a terrifying savagery. Fearing he would kill him, Ethan threw his arms around Julian, yelling at him to stop. Julian froze instantly. They stood locked in an embrace, their heartbeats and breaths mingling in the sudden silence. After a long moment, Julian gently took Ethan's injured hand. He blew softly on the deep gash, his voice trembling as he asked if it hurt. Ethan said it was fine. As Julian retrieved a first aid kit, his hair was disheveled and his shirt was torn and stained with blood. Through the torn fabric, Ethan saw, tattooed over Julian's heart, the name Lee. A fragment of something, too fast to grasp, flickered through his mind. The name was familiar. The meaning was unmistakable, a declaration of love etched into skin. A sour bitterness seeped into him. He pulled his hand away, his tone suddenly cold. He said he didn't need help. Julian, taken aback, insisted the wound needed treatment. He reached for Ethan's hand again, but Ethan jerked away, his elbow knocking a book from a nearby shelf. An album fell to the floor, splayed open. It revealed a photograph of a young man, seen from behind, wearing a baker's uniform identical to the one Julian had given him. He knew that if he turned the page, he would find a photo of the same man in a high school uniform. The realization was sickening. Julian didn't have a strange fetish. He was collecting replacements. He wasn't just a stand-in. He was the stand-in for a stand-in. Overcome with a blinding rage, Ethan punched Julian in the face. Julian, momentarily stunned, immediately focused on Ethan's injured hand, which was now bleeding freely from the reopened wound. He pulled out his phone and called his private physician. The silence between them was suffocating. When the doctor arrived, he stopped short upon seeing Ethan, a flicker of shock crossing his face before he regained his composure. He gestured to the bound intruder and asked Julian if this was another one sent by him. Julian nodded grimly. The doctor sneered at the dirty tactics, then his gaze fell on Julian's bruised face and Ethan's bandaged hand. Julian simply instructed him to treat Ethan's wound first. Security at the penthouse tripled. Neither of them left the residence. One afternoon, while scrolling through the news, Ethan saw that a prominent tech startup had been acquired by Thorn Industries. Its founder, Ronan Pierce Jr., had just been arrested for drug trafficking. The name seemed vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place it. He glanced at Julian, who was working silently on his laptop. Julian took a call, his voice low but firm. He stated that this was only the beginning and that the person on the other end would have to endure whatever came next. He then turned to Ethan, announcing a trip to New York and ordering him to stay put. The condescending tone, as if speaking to a pet, grated on Ethan. Coupled with the image of the tattoo, his resentment boiled over. He asked him directly who Lee was. Julian's expression shifted. He stared at Ethan, demanding to know how he knew that name. Ethan pointed to his chest. Julian instinctively covered the spot. Ethan pressed on, asking with feigned casualness if Lee was his lover. The word seemed to wound Julian. His face was half swallowed by shadow, radiating a profound loneliness. After a long silence, he answered that Lee was someone he wished he could stop loving. The flat tone couldn't hide the deep ache in his voice. Ethan felt a sympathetic pang of his own. He asked if, on that first night, Julian had been pretending Ethan was him. Julian met his gaze, his voice raw. He stated with quiet intensity that he had always known exactly who Ethan was. The director came to the penthouse to inspect the arrangement. In his presence, Ethan announced his resignation. The director panicked, glancing nervously at Julian, who remained impassive. Julian simply said to let him go. The director, seeing Julian reach for a teapot, scurried over to serve him, an act of sycophancy so extreme it seemed bizarre. Their dynamic was strange, too familiar for a new client relationship. But Ethan didn't care. He just wanted out. With no one to guard, he found himself aimlessly watching television. A face flashed across the news, and a jolt went through him, making every hair on his body stand on end. His entire being screamed a single primal command: kill him. He didn't know the man, yet the obsession was bone deep, as if his entire existence as a killer had been forged for this purpose. The search results came up. Ronan Pierce, age 52, former director of St. Jude's Home for Boys, imprisoned 8 years ago for child trafficking, drug distribution, and racketeering. His appeal had been denied. He was scheduled for execution. The news report detailed his crimes and showed a picture of his recently arrested son. The floodgates broke. Memories locked away for years rushed back. The squalor of the orphanage. Pierce, a bloated, monstrous figure, taunting a starving, defiant child with a bowl of food. That child was him. Pierce had called him pretty, giving him an American name. He called him Lee, the name on Julian's chest. But he had no memory of Julian. He had to know what had happened between them. He broke back into the penthouse, bypassing the enhanced security with practice skill. He searched the bookshelf, but the photo album was gone. He spotted a small safe in the corner. He tried Julian's birthday, the address, the company's IPO date. Nothing worked. Then, a string of numbers surfaced from the depths of his memory. He keyed it in. The safe opened. Inside lay the album and several journals. He opened the album. Page after page, it was him. Him in a hospital bed. Him in military fatigues. Him as a baker, a high school student, a convenience store clerk. Standing, sitting, full face, profile, it was all him and only him. Fragments of memory assaulted him, a piercing headache building behind his eyes. The frosted glass door slid open. Julian stood there. He had been in Ethan's room the whole time. Ethan looked into his eyes, and the past came roaring back, the fog between them dissipating to reveal a landscape of brutal, vibrant truth. The password to the safe was 0412, the date of their first kiss. The day he had pushed Julian away and called him disgusting. He wondered with what mixture of pain and devotion Julian had used those numbers to lock away their shared history. Julian's lips moved. He asked how Ethan opened the safe. He asked if he remembered everything. Ethan couldn't answer. His head throbbed, his vision swam, and the world went black. The last thing he saw was Julian's terrified face as he fell into his arms. His dreams were long and lucid. He was a boy again in the orphanage. Pierce's slimy, predatory gaze was a constant presence. He remembered being tied up, the man's foul breath on his face. He had looked Pierce in the eye, filled with a suicidal defiance, and warned him that if he went through with it, he'd better kill him afterward, because if he lived, he would hunt him down. Pierce had let him go. He remembered a small, clean, desperately fragile Julian arriving. He had protected him. He remembered Julian smashing a vase over Pierce's head, and their frantic escape into the night. He remembered carrying the exhausted boy on his back, feeling their heartbeats as one. He remembered being captured and sent to a brutal underground fighting circuit. He remembered Julian, no longer a child, transforming into a hardened, efficient killer to protect him after a fight left him broken. He remembered the organization using him as a guinea pig for experimental drugs, the slow erosion of his memory, and starting the journals to hold on to his love and his hate. He remembered the final night, Fueled by a new hallucinogen, he had set fire to the facility, executing the leaders just as Julian, a federal informant for 2 years, led a police raid on the building. They had escaped together. In a 24-hour diner, celebrating over a cheap slice of cake, Julian had kissed him. The drugs, the trauma, the confusion, it all coalesced into a single horrified word: disgusting. He remembered the shattering look on Julian's face. Someone was touching his face. He opened his eyes. It was Julian. The doctor was there explaining the diagnosis: dissociative fugue states brought on by years of trauma and neurochemical abuse. For 8 years, he had been lost in self-created identities. For 8 years, Julian had waited, patiently playing whatever part was required to stay near him, hoping he would find his way back on his own. Tears fell from his eyes. A hand reached out, the cool pads of its fingers gently wiping them away. It was Julian, his voice hoarse. He asked why he was crying. He couldn't meet his gaze, but Julian cupped his face, forcing him to look up. He asked again, softly, if he truly remembered. Yes, Lee said. Julian didn't say anything more. He reached out a hand, tentatively. When Lee didn't pull away, his larger hand enveloped his. He asked if they could go home now. Lee nodded firmly. Yes. As Julian led him out, Lee looked at the strong, broad shoulders that had carried him for 8 silent years. He tried and failed to imagine the depth of the hope required to stay with someone who forgot you every morning. The ache in his own heart was immense. Later, they sat together. Lee asked about the dark web, the fake organization. Julian explained it was all an elaborate, desperate construct he'd built with his fortune. A fiction designed to bring Lee back to him without triggering another schism in his mind. The night of the drugging was an accident, a real threat from one of Pierce's old rivals that had unfortunately coincided with his plan. He apologized for it, his voice filled with a fear that seemed out of place on such a powerful man. In front of him, Julian was not a magnate or a fighter. He was just the boy Lee had sworn to protect, looking small and uncertain. "What is it?" Julian asked, seeing the expression on his face. Lee finally spoke. "I was never disgusted. I was just broken. If I had known it would take 8 years for me to explain, I would have died before I ever said that word." Julian's hand trembled as it found his. "Then you..." Lee sighed. "If you ask, my life is yours." Julian kissed him. It was not a test, not an assault, not a question. It was an answer. It was a promise fulfilled.